Okay, my name is Glenn and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm glad I'm here. Thank you, Joel, for asking me to be a part of this. I love the letter he wrote here. However, I'm going to give you just a brief synopsis of how I got here, because I think it pertains to what this letter is talking about. My mom died just before my 16th birthday, 1 week before my 16th birthday. She had terminal cancer, and my dad never told us, 3 kids, that she had terminal cancer. And nobody knew. She didn't even know. And I kind of rebelled from that moment on. And I just started drinking. I started acting out. I started being a rebel. I didn't want any part of this family life. And I graduated high school at 17, and I moved out shortly thereafter. The reason I tell you this is that I was looking for something. Perhaps I was looking for, I don't know, maybe my parents' love or something. I don't know, but it wasn't until I was many years later in recovery, and 5 years in recovery, doing inventory on my dad, that I realized he was just doing the best he could with what he had. He remarried, I guess, 9 months after my mom died, and that was the last straw for me. Like, how could you do this? What is the reasoning behind it? Don't you have any courtesy for your wife? I mean, he had to take care of 3 kids and hold the job. And how was he going to do it? But I didn't understand that. See, it was all about me. And that's my point. It was all about me, selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, self-serving. It wasn't until I got into AA and I saw myself on page 62 that I said, there you go. That's the deal. So I was a rebel. I was a rebel drinking. I fell in love with a girl in the donut shop. We got married. She was 18, I was 17. 7 years later, we got a divorce. I got married to wife number 2. There's going to be 3. Wife number 2 and I had 2 kids, and I didn't want to be a dad. I still wanted to party because it's still about me. It's still about what I want. I want to do what I want to do. Screw everybody else. And I wanted the love from a marriage, from my family, from the people around me, and I just wasn't getting it. I got divorced from wife number 2, and I moved into an apartment. It was wall-to-wall carpeting, no furniture. And I remember sitting with my back against the wall, my knees up to my chest, and looking at this large room that was empty, and I felt empty inside. And I didn't know what it was, but later on, when I got into recovery and I heard some talks by Father Martin, he calls it a God hole. And that's what I was missing. I had this God hole inside of me. And I needed to fill up that God hole with something. And I was filling it up with going out to the pubs. On Monday night, it was one group of people. Tuesday, another group of people. That was dark night. Wednesday was another group of people. Thursday was the start of the weekend. So I was going out every night to fill up this God hole, this thing inside of me. I always had to be with people. I always had to be with people. Let's just leave it at that. I fell in love with the gal at work and got married to wife number 3, my present wife. And she saw me through thick and thin. And I had a crisis. I'm not going to get into that here, but I had a crisis that caused me to, took a restraining order out on me. And I can't imagine ever doing something like that to somebody that I love. Part of the restraining order said that I can't drink in the house. My keen intellectual mind was, okay, I'll just drink outside in the backyard. I can't come home drunk. Okay, I'll just have 2 beers. I don't know if you've ever tried the 2-beer trick. Forget it. It doesn't work. Third stipulation was I had to get counseling at the Alcohol Counseling Center. And that's the one that really screwed me up because I knew that they knew. So I sat there like this. Okay, teach me how to drink. And she said, you have to go to meetings. And she told me the beginners meeting in Glen Cove, where I used to live, in Long Island. And she said, you need to go to this meeting. And she told me where it was. And I came back the next week and she said, well, how was it? And I said, well, I just couldn't find it. You know, you didn't give me the right directions. She said, well, here it is. And she drew me a little map. I mean, it's part of the railroad station parking lot. You can't miss it. Anyway, I come back the next week and I said, you know, they locked the door just before the meeting. I said, it was, I don't know. She said, no, they don't. You didn't go. And if you're not going to do it, you're going to be in violation. You're going to get 6 months in jail. So that was my motivation for recovery. So I sat there again, just like this. There was smoke from 18 inches off the floor up to the ceiling. You have to walk through the room like this, you know, to get to the seat. And there was nothing but 80-year-olds sitting around, just like some of you people out there now. And the deal was, I saw the smiling faces and the dancing eyes. And I said, oh my God, I really want what they have. Now I know they must be doing something at break time. You know, we would have a speaker and then there'd be a 5-minute, 10-minute break. And then they'd come back in. I said, they're meeting someplace and they're doing something. I know they are. But that was not the case. They introduced me to recovery. And that's when I started to feel good. You know, the paper Bill wrote on emotional sobriety talks about how the newcomer says you can watch any AA of 6 months working with a 12-step case. If the case is to the devil with you, the 12-stepper only smiles and turns to another case. You know, that's the way it was. I mean, I felt really good to be a part of this AA thing. And if it didn't work, I don't care. I'll just move to the next one because I really wanted what you guys had. And then after a period of time, I don't know when it was, 5 years, maybe 10 years, I'm not sure. I'm 35 years sober now, so I'm not sure exactly where it was, but 5 years, maybe 10 years sober. The glow of the meeting kind of wore off. Working with others kind of fell by the wayside. My job, I was working as an electronic engineer and I was not having a good time with the job, and I got laid off. There were 50,000 engineers on Long Island that got laid off. There was giant military cutbacks. I didn't know what I was going to do. Now, in the meantime, I've been copying tapes of my friends' cassettes. And I put together 100 tapes that I had, and doing it on a dual cassette recorder in real time. So it takes 90 minutes to do a 90-minute tape. Anyway, I went to this store and I said, I have 100 tapes and I could make copies for you and you could sell them. She said, oh, that's great. I said, I'll sell them to you for $3. You can sell them for $5 or $6 or whatever it is. She goes, that would be great. She starts checking them off, and she checked off 30 of them, and my eyeballs are going ching, 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 you know. And then she said, I'll take 3 of each. I went, that's it. This is great. I told my wife, I need to borrow your American Express card. She goes, what for? You know, she's heard this before. She wasn't too happy about releasing this thing. And I told her that I needed to buy a high-speed machine. And she said, okay, but you pay me back as soon as possible. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. I got the check from the store. I paid her back. Glen K Audio is now born. and I became a taper. And I started going all over the country recording, and I'm getting the juice again. Okay, I'm getting the juice from all the speakers that I'm hearing, all traveling to all these people. Everybody's coming up to my table and saying how wonderful it is to hear these great speakers. Thank you so much for doing this job. And I realized what a great service this was. It was putting food on the table as well, but it really was a great service. And I enjoyed doing it. I did it for 24 years. And then what happened was I had a job in Seattle, and 3 weeks later, I had another job in Houston. And rather than shipping everything out and flying out there, which is what we normally do, I decided to take a road trip with my wife. She was my partner. And we packed up the minivan and we drove out there. We drove to, now before we left, my wife went to 2 psychics, and they said, "Oh, you're going to find your new home." Great. We thought we were going to move to Denver. My 2 sisters live in Denver, and we really liked visiting them. It's a beautiful place. We're on Interstate 80, and we're passing underneath Wisconsin. And my friend, who goes to a lot of big book studies, lives in Wisconsin, and I called her up and I said, "Hey, we're just passing by. Just wanted to say hi, thinking of you." She says, "Well, I'm not there. I'm in my winter home, or my summer home, I guess." Maybe it was whatever it was, winter home. And I said, "Really, where's that?" And she said, "Well, we're in Big Sky, Montana." And I said, "Where's Big Sky, Montana?" She said, "It's on the western entrance to Yellowstone." I said, "Wow, we're going to Yellowstone. We're going to spend a few days there." She said, "Well, come and stay at my home." So is it odd or is it God? Okay. I've taped Joe and Charlie over 50 times. And Joe likes to say that. Is it odd or is it God? So I'm a little digress here. I taped Joe and Charlie one time in Destin, Florida. And I asked the chairperson before the event, I said, "Who's going to speak Saturday night?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, Joe and Charlie always go back to the hotel. That's it. They're done for the day at 5 o'clock. They go to dinner and then they go to bed." And he said, "Well, since you're coming, why don't you be the speaker?" I said, "Okay, fine, no problem." Like I said, Joe and Charlie always go back to the room and go to sleep. So here I am. I'm at the podium now. And who walks in but Joe and Charlie? And I'm like, this is too much. You know, this is the super gurus. And now they're going to hear me. Oh, my God. So in the middle of my talk, I said, "Yeah, you know, as my good friend Joe always says, is it odd or is it God?" And go about the rest of my talk. The next morning, Sunday morning, they're finishing up and I'm recording them. And Joe says, "Yeah, as my good friend Glenn always says, is it odd or is it God?" I went, "Oh, man, you know, that stuck with me." And when we went out to Yellowstone, or actually on the way to Seattle, it stuck with me. Is it odd or is it God? I'm starting to get more and more connected to God. Now here I am, I'm sober, I don't know, 30 years, 25, 30 years at this time. And I'm just starting to get really connected to God in a different way. And I think that's what emotional sobriety is about, getting connected in a different way. I mean, we do, Charlie Parker talks about the second surrender. You know, the first surrender is when we surrender to alcohol. The second surrender is when we give everything to God. We just say, "Okay, you take it, God." So we do the job in Seattle. We come down to, we see a bunch of friends. It's not important. And then we go to Houston to do that job. We go to New Orleans. My wife's never been to New Orleans. We're there on Labor Day weekend. And it's really crowded. It's a lot of fun, a lot of people. We're on Bourbon Street, having a lot of fun. My wife is like, "Wow, this is really great, all the music." And all of a sudden, a little police scooter comes down and people spread apart, and there's a parade. And it turns out it's the gay Mardi Gras. I had no idea, but it's the Southern Decadence Gay Mardi Gras. And this is wonderful. We're having so much fun. The guys with no shirts are throwing beads to me from the floats. The gals are throwing beads to my wife. We're having a great time. We love this. Is it odd or is it God? Right? So we come, is that, I'm gonna, there we go. So we come back on Interstate 81, and my car starts to make a burnt rubber smell. And we're right at the exit. And I open up the hood. I can't see what's wrong. It's definitely burnt rubber. So we pull into this town of Greenville, Tennessee. And I pull into a store and I say, who buys a lot of auto parts from you? Because what are you talking about? And I said, well, my car broke and I need somebody who buys a lot of parts. I figured they're a good repair person. He says, well, what kind of a car? I said, we have a Honda minivan. He says, well, the guy on the ends of town, he fixes Hondas and Toyotas. That's all he does. I said, perfect. We go out there and we see this guy, and he's a wonderful guy, just a terrific guy. We fell in love. And he says, well, you have to stay overnight because it's a big repair and it's going to be some time. We go into the hotel and we're looking at the real estate book, and I can get a 5-bedroom home on 5 acres of property, and the taxes are $500 a year. We're paying $15,000 a year in taxes on Long Island. I said, we're moving. This is a no-brainer. We're moving. I'm going to move my business here. That's it. We're moving. Is it odd or is it God? Right? My wife says, you better start writing these things down. You always tell the guys that you sponsor, is it odd or is it God? To get out a little book and carry it in your back pocket. Anytime a coincidence happens, you write it down. You don't have to decide. When the evidence becomes overwhelming, you'll realize that there's God in your life. So I said, okay, I'll start writing these things down. Yes, Jane, she who must be obeyed. So I record another speaker in Rhode Island State Convention. She lives up in Portland, Maine. And she says she's going on vacation soon. I said, really? Where are you going? She said, I'm going to Greenville, South Carolina. Now, we pulled into Greenville, Tennessee. I went, Greenville, how interesting. Is it odd or is it? Write it down, okay? And then we're coming down looking for property. We decide we're going to move here. And we stop at I used to ride a Harley, and we stop at a restaurant, and I saw a dealer up on the hill, and I said, how do you get up there? And the waitress says, well, you go this way, that way, and then make a left turn on Greenville Avenue. I said, really? Jane says, write it down, Greenville Avenue. So we live in the town of Chucky. Chucky is population 5,000, 4,000 of cattle. Okay, I mean, there's nobody here. And I love it. We're right outside of Greenville. Greenville's my home group. And it's just amazing. And the reason I'm telling you that long story is because there are so many times that God was giving me the message and I wasn't hearing it. I wasn't seeing the message. I wasn't listening for the message. I thought I knew what sobriety was about. After all, I go to all these conferences. I hear these wonderful speakers who tell me what AA is all about. But it wasn't until I really started to, I tell the guys that I'm working with, if you want to have self-esteem, you got to do esteemable acts. I said things like, if you're in the supermarket, you got to take the shopping cart. They call them buggies here. You got to take the shopping cart back into the supermarket. As you're walking up from your car, bring it up to the bring it inside. What's the big deal? Worst case, you push it into the corral where it is. Okay. Yeah, I know there's somebody that actually has that as a job, but it's not a big deal. If you see a little old lady carrying her bags into the car, help her with the bags. Bring her shopping cart back up. It's no big deal. You do esteemable acts to get self-esteem. Since I'm telling my guys to do this, I better do this a little bit more myself. Is that God talking to me? Is it art or is it God? When I go to my meeting, I get there half an hour early. Matter of fact, today, I do a 6:30 meeting in the morning on Zoom, and then my lunch bunch group is face-to-face. And I got there at 11:30 today, part of the 2020 club. You get there early, you stay late. And I make the coffee every day. I don't ask for it. I just make it. I just do it because it's the right thing to do. I sit there and I have a cup of coffee by myself. I read some literature. It's good quiet time. When I got there today, there were two guys in the room already working on their, I don't know, big book steps, whatever they were doing. And they said, "Oh, I didn't know you got here early. You know, it's kind of early for you." I said, "No, the meeting starts in a half hour. I'm here to make the coffee. You know, this is the time I get here." They didn't know that. One guy I sponsored, and he didn't even know that. I feel a little remiss that I didn't pass that on to him. He doesn't, I no longer sponsor him, but whatever. So I love working with new people. I see the magic happen when the light goes on behind their eyes. When the light goes on behind their eyes, I start to get excited because they're getting it. There's nothing more exciting to me than them passing on something else to somebody else that they're working with. Not so much that it's mine, or, I mean, everything I have has been given to me from somebody else. There's no original anything. Oh, there's two things. I call it magic coffee. You got to have magic coffee when you go to AA, because I don't know what it is, but it seems to be magic coffee. When I first went to AA, they said you have to do 90 and 90. I thought they meant 90 cups of coffee in 90 minutes, the way they were pounding it down. But no, it's 90 meetings in 90 days, as most of you know. But I love working with new people. Now, what happened today was an interesting thing. We read it in Emotional Sobriety in the letter today, and I'm not sure exactly where it is. Otherwise, thus, I think it can work out with emotional sobriety. If we examine every disturbance we have, great or small, we will find at the root of some of it, of some unhealthy dependency and its consequent unhealthy demand. So normally we get 15 people in our meeting. Today we had 31, packed, big room. And the guy who signed up to lead the meeting didn't show up. So somebody said, "Oh, why don't you do it?" I said, "Sure." So I sat down and I led the meeting today. And there was a kid next to me, and he just turned 90. He got 90 days. Yay, 90 days. And the guy next to him, he said, "Oh, yeah. And he's my sponsor." And I was jealous. I was jealous that this new kid didn't ask me to be a sponsor. So there you go. I'm still feeling this stuff, you know? Just when I thought I had it licked. So yeah, I guess there's more work to be done. Thank God. Thank God there's more work to be done. If I was, thank you, I got it, I'm going to go home now. What need would there be to pray to God? What need would there be to go to God if I had a problem? What need would there be to go to AA? What need would there be to work with anybody else? No. There's always a need. I always need to turn to God. I always need to turn back and regroup. Sometimes I'll hear something from a newcomer that, crap, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Now, I've heard it a million times. I just forgot it. So it's not spiritual calculus, as it says in here. one of the biggest faults I have. And, the more I tell you of my faults, the less they own me. So that's why I'm telling you a couple of these faults. Only a couple. I have a problem with expecting a guy that I'm working with to feel the same way I'm feeling inside. I'm comparing my insides to their outsides, and why don't you want to go to a meeting every day? Why don't you want to call me at a specific time? What do you mean you're calling me a half an hour late? I mean, I just signed up to speak at the jail here yesterday. I went through the orientation, and the sergeant said his mama always told him, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. And that's true, that's one of these Appalachian things they say around here. But it's true. That's how I feel. Now, why can't a newcomer get that? I don't know. I think it takes time. I think we have to work at this. We have to work at our crises. We have to work at our things that brought us into recovery before we can start to do those more finer things. Thank God I get more and more out of the big book every time I read it. I'm going to say one more thing, and I'll turn it over to you guys. Early on in my recording days, I recorded an 11-step workshop in Western New York. And the guy gets up there and he says, this is what I do on a regular basis. I read this stuff every morning, and it's pretty interesting. And he goes through a bunch of paragraphs out of the big book. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. And the great fact is this, and nothing less, that there's a great. And it was really interesting, the paragraphs that he picked. 3rd step prayer, 7th-step prayer. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and others about us. Stuff like that, And when you put it all together, it's kind of an overview of the program. And when I got home, I wrote it all down. And I've been giving it to my guys right along. Since COVID and Zoom, and the fact that I don't have my business anymore, I took all my CDs and I put them on YouTube, and I recorded this spiritual roadmap. And people all over the world now are doing the spiritual roadmap. It's amazing. I mean, it's so exciting to go to some place and they say they're doing the spiritual roadmap. I have no idea where this place is. I've never been there before. I don't know how they got it, but I know that it's going out like that. That's what really fills me up now. That kind of stuff. That's how God has entered into my life. So when I say, is it odd or is it God? I have to do that second surrender. I have to get rid of my preconceived notions as to what I think I need to do today to allow God direct me. And when God directs me, it is the best thing that ever happened, even though at the time it may not seem that way, which it happens sometimes. But it truly is the best. And I was looking for God in all the wrong places, like that country western song. I was looking for love in all the wrong places, right? I was in the pubs. I was reading Zig Ziglar. I was reading The Power of Positive Thinking. I was doing Zen Buddhism. I was reading Ram Dass. I mean, all of these spiritual gurus, trying to get what they had. And it just has to be letting go, doing the next esteemable thing, helping the little old lady with her buggy. That's what I have to do. When I do that, God comes into my life. It's amazing how it works. So I believe the next frontier, emotional sobriety, is really the second surrender. It's all about looking for evidence of God in your life. Is it odd or is it God? When the evidence becomes overwhelming, you'll realize. Write it in your little book. When the evidence becomes overwhelming, you realize that God is in your life. It's like Allstate. Can you see me? Yeah. It's like Allstate. You're in good hands. He's going to take care of us. It's going to be okay. What a comforting feeling that I don't have to run the show. Whew. What a tough job. I did a crappy job of it too. So that's it. I'm going to leave it at there. Thank you, Joel. Thanks for asking me. And thank you all for being here. So now, do I pick some?
That was absolutely wonderful.
Hmm.
Glenn, I've known you all these years, and I'm ashamed to say this is the first time I heard you speak. I would always run into you because I like going to a lot of speaker meetings and workshops, and there you were with your headphones on, taping everybody. I'm glad I asked you. And I want to thank you also on New Year's Day. We were messing, you messaged me about Lila. I couldn't believe, she knocked me out. But she only speaks once a year on New Year's Day. I texted her, but she never answered. But
All right, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I booked her for May 10th at the Lunch Bunch group.
Oh man, I'm putting that down.
And I'll put that stuff in the chat.
All right.
Yeah. So
at this point, we open it up to people to ask you questions. But before we do that, do you see anyone in our Hollywood squares that you would like to share? You can call on a few people.
yes, I'd like to call it Stephanie, my fan club.
Hi, my name is Stephanie and I am an alcoholic. First of all, thank you for having me at your guys' meeting. I do appreciate it. Glenn, once again, every time I listen to you, I always hear something new. I'm not really sure what to share tonight other than I am truly grateful that such an amazing person in AA and all that you do for people, and to know that you're a good friend of mine is a very comforting feeling. I didn't know all this woohoo stuff about you. I would have never known it by the humble, selfless, amazing person that you are. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be here. And like I said, yeah, it's pretty awesome to hear you once again. And I'm gonna have to leave it at that, but I'm really grateful to know you. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you. How about Lisa, my other good friend here? Maybe she's not here.
Lisa, you could unmute yourself.
Hi, are you calling on Lisa from Denver?
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. Glenn, it was really good to hear your share. I am going through, I've been sober for over 13 years and I'm going through the steps. This is probably my 4th time with my sponsor. And, we were talking about what faith means, to me. And part of that was talking about looking at my past and finding the synchronicities. So, I wrote down one of the synchronicities was listening to you today, because it's exactly, what I'm looking back at. And it's, things that happened in my life that I could not believe how good the outcome was, but could not feel that at the time that it was happening. And so I really appreciated your share and the connection as far as where I am in my steps. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn it back to you, Joel. Thanks.
Okay, now we go to a show of hands, but I noticed in the chat box, some people said they got late, they got logged on late. We do record this and this will be uploaded to our Dropbox. And Dawn will either post it or she'll tell you how you can get it. So now we go to a show of hands. Maybe I'll start the ball rolling. I'm so glad you mentioned Joe and Charlie. I must have gone to about 11 of their workshops, bought a bunch of their tapes. It got to the point where I knew the punchline to their jokes. But prior to that, I didn't find Joe and Charlie until I was 12 years sober, 12 years in the rooms with untreated alcoholism. And I just thought, I didn't get it. Why? I'm busting my ass trying to have a spiritual experience, spiritual awakening. I'm reading self-help books. I'm doing Matt Talbot retreats. And when Joe and Charlie explained it in the book so clearly, and when we got to the 10-step promises and the part in the back of the book, about the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism, I knew I was in a position of neutrality. I said, damn, I had one of these spiritual awakenings, except I just didn't know I had it, and I'm glad you remind me a lot of my sponsor when I was involved with the Atlanta group, Van Letterup. It's just those kind of things, do esteemable things. You want to esteem, you want to feel esteemable, do esteemable acts, but don't let anyone know you did it. You would tell me, all that kind. You reminded me so much of the kind of wisdom that he passed along to me. Thank you so much. And I think we got hands up. Gina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gina, alcoholic, and I'm so glad to be here today, Glenn, to listen to you. I was just thinking, is it odd or is it God? What you said, it just takes on, I've heard it a whole bunch of times, but it just takes on such a new meaning hearing it from you. And you talk about the esteemable acts, and I just love, I always try to teach my boys, things about esteemable acts. And when I see them, like you said, return the shopping carts or help an old woman get something off the shelf at the grocery store. And I never ask them, they just do it. So I'm so glad, like you spread that around too, because hey, that's what we need. And also the synchronicity, I at 1 year, almost 1 year sober, I had to move here to Japan. And I was frightened because I thought, oh, AA, and what's going to happen, and do they even have it? And as I moved here, I met 3 people from the States that are now 3 guys who are like my rocks. And it was just amazing how I was given the name of somebody when I got out of treatment, and I never called him. I went to this meeting in a small little town, and guess who was running it? And now, yeah, him and his partner are amazing. And another older guy here, he said, oh, I'm from Monterey Park, where I'm from, a small, and who would have guessed? So it's just that way in the program. And lately I have been not thinking about, just how safe I am, so thanks. I know it's true, but I need to hear it, I need to be reminded of that. So I thank you so much. And I'm so glad I'm here today. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Gina. There's one other thing about that doing esteemable things. I tell my guys, you get 1 point if you do something nice for somebody. You get 2 points if you do something nice for somebody and you don't tell them that it was you. And you get 3 points if you do something nice for somebody and you don't tell anybody. Now, you write them on your calendar for the week. You add up the points at the end of the week. The following week, you have to get more points than the previous week.
Willa, I hope I said that right. You're up next.
Thanks, Joel. You know, you didn't say it right, but I've been called a lot worse. My name's Twyla. I'm an alcoholic. And I'll tell you what, I'm very grateful right now, sitting where I'm at, to be alive. Number one, thank you, Glenn, for everything you shared. I related to, I would say, pretty much all of it. You also had a way tonight with me. And I know God's right here, right now. I have no doubt about it. He is here. And whatever anyone calls their God, I hope your God's here too. So I know God is here. Perfect. I mean, how much better can my life be knowing that and believing that, having faith that that is always true. If I'm awake. So thank you, Glenn. I did get, well, when you said Yellowstone, the next thing that came to my mind was Glacier National Park. And I don't know if you got that far, but if you didn't, that's heaven. It's my version. That's my home. And wow. One of the things that you reminded me of greatly was the whole point about listening to God. And before I came into these rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I drank every day for years. And for years, sometimes I drank, sometimes I didn't. But the thing is, I did not understand one single bit. I didn't get it. Why can't I just have a couple of drinks just to relax? What the hell? Why can't I? I did not understand. And I grew up with God in my family, you know, Christian home. I'm not speaking to any of them right now, by the way, but that doesn't mean I won't. It's just that I need my space. So the point I'm trying to say is that I pray to God to help me. What in the world is with this? I knew I had a drinking problem. I mean, all you had to do was walk in my house. There's evidence everywhere, broken windows, glass. You know, my partner at the time saw me go through my bedroom window, and somebody cut me off because I don't want to get going too far here. And the thing about just this one thing about listening to God, I even went to the back of a churchyard, for heaven's sakes, praying to God, dear God, help me. I don't get this. Please help me with this drinking problem. Guess what? I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening for the answer. I was asking, what is going on? Please help. I was begging, crying out, God, Jesus, please help me. I mean, when I came in these rooms, I was desperate. I crawled in. I'd heard about it because I had some siblings that had been in 12-step programs for whatever their reasons were. And I am so grateful, man. I've been blessed beyond belief. I just lost my husband, my partner for life, December 2nd this past year, just a while ago, a couple months ago. And I am thankful. I am so happy because guess what? He's not being tortured. He's not in that painful way of being. He's somewhere, I don't know exactly where he is, but I can guarantee you he's in some heavenly place somewhere. And I'm just fine with that. So that's probably enough out of me. I'm really a fan of, I love all creatures great and small. I'm not a real big fan of peacocks. I think they're beautiful. They're gorgeous birds, but I do not like the way they squawk. They've got the worst freaking squawk on the planet that I've ever heard. I don't know. I haven't been around everywhere, but they're still beautiful. So for me, that's kind of metaphoric. All I got to do is walk out my door. I go to the store anywhere. I mean, I'm still masking up. I'm still not going to in-person meetings because I cannot afford to get sick. Yes, I've been vaccinated. Yes, I pray, whatever. I've not gotten the message from God to this day. It's okay, Twyla, to go out in the world and expose yourself to all the freaking morons. That's what I believe, that do not care enough to wear a freaking mask to help protect themselves or anyone they might be around. That's just me. I'm not saying I'm judging anyone who does not wear one or does whatever they do. That's just me. And I get that choice. I have a choice today. I did not have a choice about those drinks. And I will never, if I ever drink again, I will die. I might as well commit suicide right then. Because when I was drinking, I was dying every single day I took a drink. I am very clear on that. Now, I'm very clear too that I can go to God anytime, day or night right now, and he's there. So thank you for listening and thank you for letting me share. And thanks for your recordings.
Erwin, I believe you're up next.
Hi, my name is Erin. I'm an alcoholic. Glenn, thank you so much for your talk. What's resonating with me in your talk is looking for evidence of God in your life. I'm on a trip right now. I'm in Costa Rica. And before I went on this journey, I bumped into a show accidentally, not really by choice, a documentary on Mother Teresa. And as I was watching and learning about her life, and how she went through a really dark time, not just a dark time, 50 years being in the darkness. And to see the light in her eyes and the smile on her face when she was treating just the poorest of the poor, where does that come from when you're in such darkness? What I learned from that show was that it came from her following the directions that are written in the Bible. And that's how she made it through all of those years. So I'm here in Costa Rica, and is it odd or is it God? I'm staying in a place called Santa Teresa. And I don't think it was an accident that I bumped into that program before I went on this trip. It kind of laid the way for me. So I'm here really as part of my practice. If I follow the book and take the steps as they're written with the guidance of my sponsor, I can find that light and that happiness also. And I've been having such a great experience with my 10th step, reading it every morning. And it's really a combination of the 9th and the 10th. It's like, as we clean up our past and we move, as we continue, to watch. And so again, Glenn, looking for that evidence of God. I found a really cool group here in Santa Teresa. I'm looking forward to another meeting with them tomorrow after I go surfing. But gosh, I don't want to hog up too much time, but I do want to let you know that I went on a bike ride today up into the hills, and I had a dream last night. In the dream, there were 4 nuns. There was one nun who was driving. She seemed to know what was up, and she was clear. And, they picked me up on the side of the road because I had wrecked my mountain bike. There were 2 other nuns in the car. I don't know what they were doing there. They were just kind of benign, minding their own business. Maybe they were in neutral. And then another nun was just like a weird sister. I mean, she was weird. There's something wrong with her. I don't know what was the matter. And, it was just representative because I've been taught in interpreting my dreams to look at it as myself, that I'm finding God behind the steering wheel, guiding me and leading me. And that weird sister tried to put her arm around me and comfort me. And I knew something was wrong with her, and I got her off. I think that was my addiction. And I went to find a convent today because of that dream. I just felt like I was following some breadcrumbs. I didn't find the convent. I didn't know how to say nun even, but I found a little Catholic church, and I showed them a picture of a nun, and I asked them if I could pray. And they took me to the back, where there was a little private chapel, and there was a candle lit, and there was the Virgin Mary and a little one-person altar. And I got on my knees and I prayed and I asked God to please help me to forgive myself. You know, I did some real damage in this country. It started here and it really escalated. And I feel like I'm going on too long now, but I was moved by your talk, Glenn, and I'm seeing evidence of God everywhere if I look for it. And right now, I got to end with this. There's that green comet up here in the sky. I know it's not just for me, but what's up with that, God? That is very cool. Thanks for letting me share.
I'm still muted. Okay, before I ask Sarah to speak, somebody text me in the chat that they want your number, Glenn, and I don't give out numbers unless I ask permission first. Would you mind if people contacted you? Would you want to put your number in the chat? Otherwise, I don't give out other people's number until I get I get their permission first. No response. Glenn's typing. Okay, Sarah, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Sarah, alcoholic. I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm very grateful, Glenn, to hear you tonight. Joel, thank you for your service. Is it odd or is it God and all this stuff? My husband passed away 11 months ago. Many of you know that. And not a day has gone by where I have not seen the evidence of God doing for me what I cannot do for myself every single day, over and over again. Sometimes it's little, sometimes it's big. I mean, sometimes it's huge. I mean, things that have happened. And, you know, just to give you kind of a little example, right before Christmas, I'd had lunch with some friends, and this was when we were having the big storm come in. And a couple of days before that, we had my friend and I had both gotten some bread starter stuff, and then I said, "Oh, I should have let you keep that because my oven door is like falling off." I don't know. And then through a series of events, I had lunch with her and her husband, and I was telling her that I should have given that to her, and she says, "Oh, you want me to come take a look at it?" I'm like, "What do you think you're going to do with it?" And she goes, "I don't know." I said, "Well, let your husband know that you're coming over to my house, you know, so he knows where you are." And she did. And then he was like, "What the hell is she going to do with that oven door?" So he shows up at my house and he looks at my oven door, and I'm afraid it's an old oven. I mean, my stove was 40 years old, probably, or more. And I'm thinking it's going to fall off that one day and break my foot. Now I'm living alone, and that wouldn't be a very good thing. So, and this is just one of those things. And so he looked at it for a while, and then he turns to me and he says, "You know, I have a feeling, you know, like, I mean, it's not really that good. You're going to need to replace it." And he says, "One will manifest itself." And I'm thinking, okay, now I have long since stopped questioning words like that or things like that. And I said, okay, one is going to manifest itself. But I looked at him and I said, "Manifest itself?" He goes, "Oh yeah." He says, "That stuff happens all the time." So 2 days later, I got a text from her, from my friend, and she's got a picture of a stove there, and they're coming, and her and her husband are coming over to bring me this stove, and they're going to haul off my old one, and they're and I'm saying, well, it manifested. They had a couple of friends that had remodeled their kitchen and were getting rid of their stove, and this is, you know, this is just before 2 days before Christmas, and they show up at my house with a stove. Is it odd or is it God? I have stopped questioning that. No freaking way is it odd. It is just God, just God. So that happens. And when they're coming over, now we had just had a big blizzard the night before. So I'm kind of watching for them out my front window, out my front door. And there's just a little window there. And I happened to notice coming in from the street footprints coming along my driveway into the street and coming, you know, and I'm thinking, well, what the heck? Did somebody come to my house when I wasn't looking, you know, or wasn't paying attention? I mean, you know, I might have been upstairs or something. I wouldn't have heard the door. And I said, so maybe somebody came to my door. And then just a few minutes later, they arrived. I didn't open the door at that time, but a few minutes later, they opened the door and there was a Christmas package in between my storm door and my front door, and there's a Christmas package there, and it's got a note on it. It says, "To Sarah from an elf. Oh, don't open until Christmas. To Sarah from an elf." Now, my husband and I used to hide elves. We did the elf on the shelf thing at Christmas for the great aunts, and we had a lot of fun with it, and it was all kind of cool and stuff. And it said, "To Sarah from an elf." And I thought, okay, do not open till Christmas. So I waited till Christmas and I opened that package, and it was like a gold heart about this big, gold heart with angel wings. And, and I still do not know who put that present in my door. And when you ask for evidence of God, that's just one. And these are things that have been happening every day. Those are just some of the bigger ones. Some of them are quite a bit smaller, but every day. And I have just gone to the point where I get up in the morning, and like I've always said my prayers in the morning, and I always do that. And then I report for duty, because the prayers that carry the most weight and are of the rarest beauty are those in which we don't demand, but just report for duty. So here I am reporting for duty every day. I say all those prayers. God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And I do not question it. I just say, okay, God, the day is yours, wherever you want me to go. And I have every single time like my phone will ring and somebody will say, "Sarah, come here and come go here with me," or "Sarah, can I come over and see you?" And, some of them have been more important messages like, "Sarah, I have to get out of my house, and I've got my 11-year-old daughter with me, and we have to leave now." And I said, "The door is open. You can just come." And so I opened my door. A couple of weeks before that, it was a woman that I sponsor whose boyfriend had just decided he was moving in with her without permission or without consent, and had kind of taken over. And I grabbed another woman, and me and another woman went and moved his shit out and put it on the sidewalk. Because that's where God directed me to go. I don't know, I know, no question. And I believe that my faith has grown because I've stopped to listen. And I've stopped questioning and started listening and paying attention. And I've always believed that, if I could have done anything better, it would have been to pay attention better. But now I'm paying attention. I am really paying attention, because I can't deny these things, and I can't stop these things. And I don't, okay, God, whatever, and so I don't question it anymore. And I answer my phone in the middle of the night, and I answer it in the middle of the day. And it doesn't make any difference what time it is, because there's a reason that somebody's calling me. And there's a reason that I'm doing what I'm doing. And there's a reason that I've been put in the position I've been put in. And, carrying the message means we take it with us wherever we go. And so I hope I'm doing that. And I know that I'm sharing what God is doing, that God does for us what we cannot do for ourselves, and not questioning that faith anymore. No more faith, no more questioning faith, and a whole lot less fear than I have ever had in my life. The fear has been removed. So thank you for your share tonight, and for the reference to the smiling faces and the dancing eyes, because that, oh my God, those faces, those smiles and those eyes, that's what caught my attention and was my invitation to Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you for letting me share tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. Sarah, I see there's no more hands, so I'm just going to take a minute. It says lack of power, page 45. Lack of power is our dilemma, and we had to find a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how are we going to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Notice it doesn't say alcoholic problem. It says solve your problem. So it's really all inclusive. This book is so perfectly written. Initially when I read it, I said, okay, it's going to solve my alcohol problem. That's true initially. And now it solves all my other problems as well. So looking for God solves my problem. It's amazing.
Can I add something to that, please? Our responsibility statement says, when anyone anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA always to be there. For that, I am responsible. It doesn't say when any alcoholic anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA always to be there. It says when anyone anywhere. And so I have stopped believing that I just help alcoholics. I help whoever happens to me, the old lady in the grocery store too. Thank you, Glenn, for that.
The little old man with the boogie.
Well, we got plenty of time, and I'm gonna call names. I know people. Step up, ask questions. Okay, I'm gonna call on Dave. Dave H. from Rome. You there?
Yes, hi, I'm Dave. Dave from Rome, an alcoholic. Yeah, thanks, Joel, for calling me. And thanks for what a terrific share. I was unable to catch 100% of it, but the whole concept of God appearing in our life and using that book as the guide to do it, and the whole program just rings the bell with me more and more as each day, month, year goes by. And I had some stuff occur this past week. Again, it's just, I had hoped to be in Arizona, but a whole series of sequences, and I think I already related it somewhere. I was going to end up at the Bill Wilson house. That didn't happen. I was going to end up someplace else, and I ended up at Dr. Bob's house in northern Vermont. Is it odd or is it God? And I listened to those recordings, the Joe and Charlie tapes, over and over for the last 4 years, 5 years, something like that, and to the other people. And the whole program is truly a miracle, and I feel it every day. I still have my ups and downs. Yesterday was today's good. It's like Monday was awful, but it's, as long as I know how to deal with it, I'm getting better at it. I'll just say that I keep trying to get better at it. But, thanks for calling on me. Love this series, and you guys are all doing a great job. Thanks, appreciate it.
Good seeing your face, Dave. Okay,
See you.
the girls are very quiet. So either Dawn or Deanna, I know you guys got something to say.
I'm Deanna, I'm alcoholic. So just sitting here with Dawn a little while ago, and she starts reading me this prayer out of this book. And I told her, I said, we were on a book study on Monday, and on that book study, I was asked to chair next week. And that was the prayer that I wanted to read, and I hadn't been able to find it. And she just decided to read it to me randomly tonight. And so I thought, oh, is that odd or is that God? Yeah, I when I'm looking for those coincidences, when I'm looking for God, I will find him. And I actually do what you were talking about. When something happens in my life that there's no doubt in my mind that that was God working in my life, I do write it down. And that's my way of and I when I'm working with the girls I sponsor, I do the same thing. I let them know that you may have a concept of God or an idea of God, but this is my experience with God, and no one can argue with my experience, not even me when I'm having a bad day. So when things are going wrong, or when I'm up in my head, I can look at that list and I can see how God has been there for me in my own life, not just theory, but in truth. And yeah, so that's the God of my experience, which is yeah, it's not something that anyone can ever take away from me. So I'll pass it over to Dawn.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm alcoholic. Thank you, Glenn. I think we met in Indiana once. I have a very loose attachment to the recordings of this group, and I know how demanding people can be about them. So thanks for all your service work. thing that I was thinking about when you were sharing was I had recently done I've been taking a mystical sobriety course from James Finley out of the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque. And one of the assignments through this course was to create a timeline of traumatic or difficult events prior to 25. And I did that, and it was tough. I mean, it was tough stuff to go back and look at again. And because of the what you were talking about, you know, when you hit that place where nothing works but God, there's no gods but God. And I'm in this place, and I'm doing this writing, and one of the chief malfunctions that I have in my relationship with God is believing, or was believing that God had somehow forsaken me during my childhood, and that it just, there was no God there. And I did the writing, I did the thing, I did the assignment as I was instructed. I did it because I knew that it was no coincidence that I was being tasked. This is the thing that's in front of me. It's the thing that's being asked of me. I think it's a bad idea, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And with prayer, I go ahead and I do it. This went on for a little bit. It was challenging for me. After that writing of that part was over, I was in meditation at one of my mornings, and I was spontaneously, I guess, directed, inspired to do the same thing with all the times that God showed up. And I started writing it down. I created the timeline, the same in the same pre-25-year-old timeline, and I wrote down these times when I knew God showed up. Now, this was not part of the assignment. This was spontaneous direction. And as a result of that, I looked at this and I went, wow, God was there the whole time. And I didn't, it seems logically obvious that that's true, that God was there the whole time, you know, but I could not feel that. I could not connect those dots. And I, like Sarah, lost my husband and had to go through the really low, the gravity of the grief in my life. And there's an element of understanding that if God can be present and carry me day to day to day to day to day to day to day through that sober, which I still find stunningly remarkable that I actually stayed sober, that God can be present in the painful times. So I came out of that experience knowing that I really was able to talk to two people in one day who told me, when I shared this with them, one of whom was a sponsor and one who's a very close friend of mine. And they both said, oh, it's the footprints in the sand thing. God was actually carrying you then. And I was like, whoa, right? Now, all those things, you know, the signing up for the course, the combination, the putting together, the Tetris pieces coming into place for God to remove that obstacle in my belief structure that is going to prohibit me from going forward. And it was literally just washed away. Now, I'm sure there are residuals and there's more to come, But the truth is that when you can, every now and then, I get an opportunity where the veil gets pulled back and I can see the hand of God moving in my life. And the beauty is, at this course, I realized that it's so that I can be of better service, because I'm not useful if I think I'm going to be betrayed. And it was so profoundly freeing in such a brief and spontaneous seemingly time. I had no idea. It's like a total gift. So I am saying this because you reminded me of this episode when you said, write it down, write it down. So I'm quick to start to analyze the negative. You know, I'm quick to get in there and try to fix all the problems in my life. I'm ready. I'm in. I've got it. But I hear what you're saying. I need to look at what's going right too and what went well. And yeah, thank you so much.
Getting close to the end of the meeting, are there any final thoughts, Glenn? Things that you would, you wish you had said, or comments, or whatever?
It's funny you should say, there's an auditor. Yes, I think that the way this program seems to be working for me is that I get into these mini crises, whatever it may be. Running out of gas, I get a flat tire, it could be anything. And all of that brings me closer to God. All of these exercises brings me closer to God. However, left to my own devices, which is a term I would never use prior to AA, but left to my own devices, I would never seek God unless I had a crisis. Isn't that funny? So it's through this thing, the spiritual roadmap that I do, the daily meditation, where I do it out of habit, that I say prayers, I say meditation, I get into this thing where I'm seeking God, show me your way today, all of that kind of thing, because I forget. I have a built-in forgetter that makes me forget, but that's my job. My job is to help others. And anything I do to make money is just to pay the bills so that I can do my job, which is to help others. And sometimes I lose track of what's the priority, what's important. This habit I have of spiritual roadmap and things like that, going to meetings on a regular basis. I go every day, 6:30 in the morning, sober start. Is a great way to start the day. We have 110, 120 people every day at 6:30. Some people from California, 3:30 for their time. But it's that habit, it's that seeking, you know, like the ABCs, page 60, right? It's the seeking that does it. God could and would if he was sought. All I have to do is seek God, and he does those things for me. I don't even have to find him. I just have to seek God. Isn't that cool? That's it, my parting words.
Okay. The way this meeting usually ends, I learned this from Glenn, who used to run this meeting. I mean, Sam Glenn. I call him by his last name. Sam Glenn used to run this meeting for about 2 years. And then he says, I'm burnt out. This meeting's not going to go on unless somebody steps up. So that's how I got into this position. But anyway, the way we usually end this is we go into that quiet room within ourselves, meditate, prayer, whatever it is, for about a few minutes. And then we close by thanking the speaker.